Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Community Platform on UCTV. Violence of any kind is unacceptable, whether it's against men, women or children. Today we wanted to talk about domestic abuse against South Asian women, particularly South Asian women. Women who come to UK either through marriage or to be with their families, are married off. And unfortunately, we have cases where people are being thrown out, women have been thrown out of their homes, they have been beaten. And it makes you wonder, why does that happen? Does it happen in a particular class? Does it happen in a particular kind of community? Domestic abuse, it transcends color and creed. It happens in all classes and all communities. But what makes a man beat up a woman? This is a very difficult question. बहुत से लोग तो ये कहते हैं कि भाई हमारा दीन इजाज़त देता है. Jihalat, it has nothing to do with Islam. It has nothing to do with any religion. Domestic violence has gone up since this lockdown, generally. But today we wanted to talk to someone who actually specializes in dealing with Muslim women, particularly South Asian women, in Blackburn. And the name of the organization is Humraaz. And of course we have Sister Firoza Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum, Sister.
Wa alaikum salam.
Firoza, how are you?
Alhamdulillah. If I can just say Ramadan Kareem to all your listeners, pray they're safe during the lockdown and having a blessed Ramadan.
Jazakallah khair, Firoza, and Ramadan Kareem to you too. Firoza, this is a very difficult topic, isn't it? You know, as a woman, it makes me cringe when I think that a man can beat a woman simply because she's a woman. Tell me something first about yourself, what you do and your organization, and then let's take this forward.
Okay. So I work with, it's Humraaz Support Services. There's 3 strands to our organization. We are a non-profit charity. We are led by and for black and minoritized women and girls, and you'll hear the term BME. We have national accreditation with Women's Aid and IMCAN, who are a second-tier organisation addressing violence against BME women and girls. So Humraaz was established by local women in Blackburn over 18 years ago. So the need was highlighted for a culturally sensitive refuge over 18 years ago. We may be based in Blackburn, but we take national referrals, so we could have a woman coming to us from all parts of the country, depending on the bed space at the time. So one part of the work is the safe refuge accommodation for families at crisis. And families may be removed for safeguarding purposes, may be forced out, or it could be a planned leave due to the abuse. So once they arrive at the refuge, obviously there's a referral process and agencies are involved. The whole idea of refuge is we provide a very holistic wraparound service. There's a range of areas like education, health, even spiritual and social needs. We have a key worker system. We listen to the women and prioritise her needs. And we step by step rebuild their lives. And each woman has a unique story. Her recovery is unique to her. Her healing is unique to her because of what's happened to her and how many years she's endured and how many perpetrators. With South Asian women, there is normally, or more often than not, more than one perpetrator. So there's emotional and practical support offered. We offer them professional counselling, legal advice, child contact arrangements, immigration, which is a big part of our work, and I'll talk about a bit more of that.
Sure.
There's vast education activities, life skills, and there's resettlement and outreach, which is a long-term, service that we provide for the women anytime they need some advice, or something's not happening, or something's going wrong, we're there, basically. We don't stop once they leave the refuge. So at the refuge, we could have all kinds of women. We could have young women, old women, pregnant women that have to give birth without their family, women that may have been stuck in B&Bs or mixed hostels due to no immigration status. So there's a whole range of women that come with their own unique stories, like I say. So the work is tailored around their needs and how long it takes them to recover. The second part is we have a community hub. This is a safe space for any woman of all ages to access. And here we sort of facilitate community learning, English, IT, therapeutic and personal development activities, health awareness, self-defense, self-esteem, vast range of advice and advocacy. And we've started some accredited courses there now. As the women were asking for the next step, we've started that process. And then lockdown happened. So inshallah, we will take that forward once we're out of this lockdown period. We do have a weekly coffee morning, and that's attended by quite a number of older women as well as younger women. And they've created a very supportive peer support group. And then the third part, which was launched at International Women's Day in March this year, is Prodigy. And this is a support group for professional women from ethnic minorities. And one of our trustees takes the lead with this group. So, there's strands of our work, but it's very intense. It's long work. It's not work that we can carry out in weeks. It takes months.
It's a lot of work, isn't it, Firoza? There's a lot of work that your organization seems to be doing. The question that I think that I'm quite interested in is that why? What is the reason? Is this are you government funded, or do you have to look for money? What happens to a case where you have, say, let's use an example. You have a young girl who comes from Pakistan or India. She's been here for a couple of years. She doesn't have indefinite stay, so she has no recourse to anything, any financial benefits. What happens to her?
Okay, so when Humraaz was first set up, that issue was around at the time then. Agencies didn't understand no recourse to public funds. So we used to have one bedroom that was allocated for a woman that needed that kind of
one room.
Yeah, one room. Out of 4 rooms. There was only 4 rooms that we had at the time. Alhamdulillah, we have 10 rooms that we can offer, which is still not enough. We've had to turn away 16 women since January because we've been full. And why have we been full? There was a process to follow. The immigration process takes long. Not as long as it used to 18 years ago, because with local and national campaigning and lobbying, I think it was Jack Straw that took this forward, where women that are arrive on spousal visas, there is some kind of concession now. So that part of it is made a little bit easier. But every time we take one step forward, there's always 10 steps back. Now the process is more complicated. So there's biometrics to do, there's the whole host of things before she can actually access refuge. So that first few weeks, she could be, if she's a single woman, it's very difficult because authorities don't always take, they don't always want to help a single woman because you've got no, it's not that they don't want to help, but I think they don't understand how to help. So she could end up in a mixed hostel, she could end up homeless, she could end up sofa surfing, which she's open to even more abuse because people take advantage. So what we do is we started fundraising, and just this time of the year we asked people if they would give their zakat to Humraaz, and that part of money is held for women like that. And that's the whole purpose of that pot of money. We don't use that money for running the service. We don't use the money to pay staff salaries or bills, nothing. That is there for any woman that needs it, not necessarily only the women that come to us. If the police came and they were stuck, we would offer that money.
Okay, just give me, because I just want to know, do you have any figures for women who have no recourse to funding that you need to help? Do you have any figures at all? How many women came to you, let's say, from January to 2020 to May? That's for the past 5 months.
So out of the 10 bed spaces, we could have 9 women in with us with no recourse. And why are we getting all these women? I'll tell you why. Because we're a specialist service for a start. We understand their needs. We understand the immigration process much better. But there's a lot of work to do with these women. You know, statements for immigration, that initial cost. Who's going to bear that? Which service is going to bear that? Language issues, the cultural issues. So over in particular, the 5 to 8 years, I would say the increase of no recourse to public funds are coming our way.
Are you getting a lot more
So
young
funding? No, funding wise, we get very minimal funding. We every BME organisation will say they're on a shoestring budget, but we in regards to staffing, we go over and beyond. It's not always about money. It's about helping a woman.
Yes.
So funding has always been an issue, and with austerity and budget cuts and commissioning processes, BME services, some have been decommissioned, lost their funding. So we're always fighting. We're always looking. We're always trying to be creative as possible.
So the need, the want, so the need is greater. I'm going to check on some. I think there's some questions that are coming up. But Firoza, just tell me something. Do you think that domestic abuse has increased over the past 5 years, or has it diminished?
I think there's a lot more awareness about domestic abuse and the effects on women and children. Because of the awareness, a lot of professionals are picking up on signs. Women are learning about the effects it has on their children, on their mental well-being. There is an increase. There's a lot of social issues within our own communities and all communities, and domestic abuse has no borders, as you said in your opening speech. There's a different kind of abuse that takes place within the South Asian communities. A lot of controlling of women. Women have to hold the family honour. You know, they may not have a voice in decision making. Lots of pressure from abroad to keep the marriage going. So the kind of pressures women have to go through when they come to refuge, they're constantly called from their homeland, family friends here, constantly retracting statements, come back, he'll change, things will get better. So there's constant things that we have to work with the women constantly. You know, every day is something new. So I wouldn't say it's decreased. Obviously, there's a lot more social issues, so drugs and alcohol are involved. So I would say increased.
It's increased.
Whether that's the pressures of modern life, I'm not quite sure.
Do you feel that the clientele has changed? Are there younger people? Are there older people? Or is there any difference? I mean, when you talked about, I think just a few minutes ago you said we get all sorts of people. We get older women, and I'm just wondering, what do you mean you get older women? At what age is?
Our eldest woman was 62 that we had in service.
62.
We get women in their late 40s. We get the majority of the clients that come through are young in terms of between 20 and 30. Some with children, some without children. Some, when I say without children, some have been thrown out without their children. So the process of going through the courts in terms of just child contact is so detrimental to the woman, because she doesn't know the system. She can't navigate through the legal system. Language is an issue, and you have a whole family against this one person, and you know, working through interpreters and courts, and it breaks my heart when I see women with 2, 3, 4, 5 children. And what happens? I don't know if you've heard the term parental isolation. What happens is the child becomes estranged from the parents. So we work with women. It could happen to men. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to men.
I'm glad then through
that. the other parent and the family or extended family, manipulation. The child is then hostile and disrespectful, fearful. So all those kind of things that Kafka's pick up on, and it goes against the woman. Now this woman has given birth, reared, and then what's happened to the woman? She's just been sort of, she was treated as a commodity basically, and then she's just been, right, you've done your bit, we don't need you anymore.
I'm sitting here and I'm cringing, Firoza. I'm cringing here listening to you. That I'm really cringing.
And what's increasing more and more is the transnational abandonment, where under pretense the women are taken, and you may believe this, but even under the pretense of taking women to Umrah or holidays and then leaving her stranded in the homeland without her ID, the children are left in this country. So, that seems to be a growing trend at the moment. We're seeing more
let me ask you. Let me ask you another question. I know that we're looking at violence against women, but I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I remember personally doing some research looking at is there violence against men, and I was quite appalled actually that there is violence against men, and that the men don't have that same facility. You don't have a refuge for men in Blackburn, do you?
No, we don't.
No,
we're a women's-only service. And there will be men. There will be men that are suffering.
Because I remember asking, I interviewed 72 men in Blackburn. And I was quite surprised that the nearest refuge for men was in Derby. There's no refuge. So help me to understand, what happens if you've got a young man with 2 kids who's been abused by her female partner or wife? What does he do? We don't work with men, so we wouldn't take that case on. But there are services, we've got local services and services in Lancashire that do work with men and have dispersed houses that they can accommodate men. The only other option would be to present homeless and see if they can get temporary accommodation. There is a gap. I'm not saying there isn't a gap. It's taken women's services a long time to get where we are, and we're still fighting for funding. So I think maybe the men should take lead in providing something but
for men.
There's a problem there, isn't it, Firoza, that for a man to admit that he can be abused by a woman, so there's that barrier, isn't it? How can a man? I mean, I remember when I interviewed and talked to some of the men, and they said, "Are you kidding me?" And we said, "No, it's a fact."
These are the kind of things as our community and our whether it takes place in community events or mosques, wherever it takes, within friends. These are the kind of things we need to start talking about. We need to start supporting victims.
Absolutely.
It's not a taboo subject anymore.
No, it isn't. It's not a hidden subject. It's very much out open.
We as Humraaz, for 10 years, we worked underground. We didn't publicise what we did because, we felt fearful about our sort of families because the community wasn't accepting of a women's refuge or a specialist women's refuge. It's brushed under the carpet. But there's more acceptance now. There's more willing to get help. We have a lot of males that support our service. In fact, we've got a brother that's fundraising for us this month for Zakat. So there is support for services like ours. It just takes somebody creative. I mean, I understand that Humraaz was created from a living room. Women saying, let's do something about it. It just takes a few men to just come together and start something.
Firoza, if I said to you...
And we would be willing to help and support them set up. That's not an issue.
Yeah. Firoza, if I said to you that what do you think are the top 3 issues that that the women come and tell you when they come to you that are the causes of domestic abuse? Certainly in our Pakistani or subcontinent community, or women from subcontinent community.
Yeah, I think the issue is, I would ask, why are we going abroad to marry our children off? Some marry the children off to fix them. Well, you can't expect a spouse to fix your child, whatever the issues are. But when they go abroad to marry, they're looking at a particular type of person to marry. They're not looking at compatibility in the term that, our religion teaches us arranged marriage is good, where you find it compatible in terms of education, social, family. We're not doing that. We're just going to find either the one that's most educated or the one that's got, beauty or whatever it may be, and then expecting them to come and be a domestic servitude, basically. So are we marrying our children for marriage purposes, or are we marrying them for other? So there's a conflict there. So women come, South Asian girls are very excited with marriage. They want to be happily married forever. Then they come and and also understand the lifestyle in our home countries, the climate, the openness. And here, there's 4 walls sometimes that they're not allowed out. They're very controlled in terms of their own development, learning English so they can learn about services. Also, learning English would help them when they have children. So these women, that I say when I say older women that come to us, because they've never been allowed to be developed, they haven't been part of that process of the education of their children because somebody else has done it.
So what you're saying is that there are some cultural issues when girls or boys come from abroad. Is that also a point of conflict?
Yeah, there's an element of control. There's an element of power there being played. That we have called you here, therefore you owe us. There is power being played out. So that's not a level playing field for a marriage to start off with. And also, the thing is, some children, some young people are coerced into marriage. We talk about forced marriage, but there's a lot of coercion goes on there. And young people need to start talking to their parents or a safe family member when they're not happy. Don't go along with it just for the sake of it, because at the end, there's so many lives that are shattered, going forward. And then they sort of, once they do get help, they lose their family, their community, they're very vulnerable then, because we're brought up in families. So, sometimes avoiding doesn't help. So to try and get the help, try and say no, try and work through things. For parents as well, listen to your children, talk to your children. Even parents are under pressure from their family members. I'm not sort of saying parents are just marrying their children. Of course, they love their children and want the best for their children, and they'll be under some kind of pressure, and they need to stand up. Lives are very different.
That's fine,
Times are very different.
Let's really get to the grips here. You can have people from Pakistan or India or Bangladesh coming here, or you can have girls going over there and getting married. The fact remains that should a man be allowed to hit a woman? No, he shouldn't. So what makes a man? So we're saying there's a lot more alcohol abuse. There are lots of drug abuse.
Yeah.
Should there be?
There's a lot of psychological abuse that goes on. When I first started work at Humraaz, it's about 16 years ago, there were women coming with physical bruises and physical broken bones. A lot of it emotional and psychological and controlling behaviour now. It's just, although we do still see women coming with bruises, it's more the hidden kind of abuse that goes on.
So what happens
which is
if you've got children?
long-term effect on the woman's mental well-being.
Yeah. Firoza, what happens if you have a woman who comes to you and let's say she's got 2 or 3 young children, she's only been in the country for 2 years, and we've already said that, there's some financial implications, but she has nobody here. She has no connections, that the in-laws were her only connection.
So with women with children, we get children's social care involved, and there's Section 17, and so there could be funding via the children. So there could be a refuge place available because the children need to be safeguarded, and keeping the family unit together is better than take them into care. So with children, there are some other options and avenues. It's the single women that suffer the most.
So that if there's a woman, let's make it complicated here, Firoza. You have a woman who's got, say, a couple of kids, but the in-laws have taken the children. What happens?
It's a very, very, very long legal battle.
But we know we have cases, don't we? But
We
I'm
have.
saying to you
We've
that there
got
are
running
cases
cases at the
where the
moment.
in-laws have
And
actually
2,
taken
3,
the
4,
children.
5 years down the line, women are still, the children stop seeing their mum, basically. And we're having women that are then having to fend for themselves in terms of, they haven't had to run a home, in terms of the bills and utilities, the domestic side of it they can do. They've had to learn all these things.
But who's
and it's
going
very
to teach? So
difficult for a
who's
single
going?
woman to be
Yeah,
on
Firoza,
benefits.
who's going to do the teaching? Who is supposed to teach men who are, mature enough, old enough, who are beating the hell out of their wives and their girlfriends? Who is supposed to teach them that what you're doing is wrong?
Well, we need to look within ourselves. We need to start changing our cultural norms. We need to start in the home first. We need to allow women and girls to be part of the household decision making, give them the same opportunities, and hold perpetrators to account.
Yeah, but I mean, if you've got a father...
Get them help,
Yeah.
not to brush things under the carpet. Because what happens is, one marriage breaks down, then the perpetrator goes back and gets another woman. We've had 2 men that have brought 2, 3 women over the years.
Yeah, so you have a father who beats his wife, the children watch, and there's a learning curve, isn't there? That they're learning that it's okay to beat a woman because she didn't make दाल रोटी ठीक से नहीं पकाई थी, उसके अंदर नमक जो था वो कम था, 2 थप्पड़ मार दिए तो क्या हुआ? So the children pick up, the boys pick up, the girl picks up that it's okay. 1-2 थप्पड़ अगर शौहर ने मार दिए तो कोई बात नहीं है, क्योंकि मेरी माँ को भी तो मारते थे ना, तो क्या हुआ? So there's this...
We need to break the cycle. We need to break
there's
that
a vicious cycle that we're
we
taking
need
in.
Family members, neighbours to report these kind of things, because we don't, as a community, we just think it's a domestic. We need to have more counselling services. We need to have more therapeutic services for couples to work through their relationship problems.
Who in the community, when we look around in the community, who organizations, who do we seek help from? I want to know that my deen, the most beautiful deen, does not allow a woman to be beaten. Let me tell you, Firoza, I was absolutely horrified. Day before yesterday, I was talking to some young people. I always, before I do a show, I always talk to young people to find out, to get some input. A 26-year-old boy said to me, but men are allowed to hit women and I said, I beg your pardon? It was horrifying that he actually believed that men can actually...
because religious texts is used, parts of the religious text is used to their advantage. And that's part of the fear of women, because when they come, when we do our educational awareness, we talk about these kind of cultural issues and religious texts, and we dissect that and what it means. And they were under the illusion they had to, they had to do certain things because the religious texts sort of they have to follow that text. So there's a lot of control around religion as well that we need to teach our girls about, what is acceptable and what is not, what is written, what our Prophet ﷺ came 1400 years ago, to get rid of all this where girls were being buried alive, and give women rights. So we need to go back to our roots. We need to go back to the core, of what the belief.
But where are we learning from that? You see, my question is, it's a very difficult question.
Yeah,
where?
It is. I mean, there are some, obviously there are, now we've got a lot of young people that have studied and are holding sort of courses, and
they're learning at school
in English.
The school
but
is
there's
teaching.
no one speaker. There's no one speaker. We're not.
Do you think our mosque can do a lot more?
Who can? Sorry.
Do you think our masajids can do a lot more to teach our children to respect women?
Part of the curriculum, yes.
Yes.
But it has to come from home as well. The home setting has to be.
Firoza, that's what I'm saying is that if the parents have grown up thinking, if the mother and a young girl and a young boy have grown up to think that, 2 or 3 slaps here and there is not a problem, who's going to teach those children Where are they getting this information from? कि किसी के ऊपर हाथ उठाना, particularly on a woman, is not acceptable. Who's going to teach that young child? If the mother and the father actually believe that, and this is my concern at the moment, that we have young people who believe that, it's okay, it's all right. That's a worry for me.
Massages have got a part
They
to
have
play.
to. I'm
The
sorry.
community groups
Absolutely. They have to take.
have a part to play. Every individual has a part to play.
Absolutely,
If you see
Firoza.
abuse, then you need to speak out and get help for the
Yeah.
people.
Firoza, I'm so grateful to you. I know कि जब मैंने तुम्हें phone किया था, you said to me, but it's a timing Anjum. And I know you have such an important role as a mother. I'm very grateful to
for
you.
the husband to do the cooking tonight.
No.
Again,
I'll let you go.
Sharing the chores, sharing the responsibility.
Sure, of course.
It's so much more productive than having one person do everything, and so we need to just reflect on ourselves. And I hope this lockdown has, although after the lockdown, I don't even want to think about the kind of issues that we're going to have to deal with after lockdown.
This lockdown is becoming a bit of a problem for everyone. Firoz, I'm very grateful. I'm going to let you go because I know you have a lot of work to do. I'm very grateful to you, and I hope that when the lockdown's finished, you can come into the studios and we can have a real banter. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
If anybody wants to know more about Humraaz, we have a website. You can contact us.
Absolutely, we will get that information.
If you want to fundraise or donate, please get in touch. Thank you very much for having me.
We will do that. Jazakallah khair, my sister. Assalamu alaikum. So we were listening to Firoza from Humraaz. कहने की दरअसल बात यह है कि आखिर we have to take responsibility for our own actions. कोई गैर आके हमें नहीं बताएगा कि भाई औरत के ऊपर हाथ उठाना गलत है. It's not going to happen. We have to do our own work. हमारे मसाजिद को अपनी responsibility पूरी करना पड़ेगी. We have to teach our children. 4 साल का बच्चा जब मस्जिद में जाता है तो उसको हम ग्रूम कर सकते हैं. E.g. in the positive sense. Talk, and I know many मसाजिद बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहे हैं अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, मगर जो काम अच्छा करता है उससे तवक्को होती है कि वो और ज़्यादा करेगा, and the responsibility rests a lot not only on parents but on young people as well, that you can't beat a woman. It's not right. You're not allowed to beat a woman. अक्सर हमें रेफरेंस देते हैं कि भाई इस्लाम में तो अलाउड है कि आप कर सकते हैं. It's wrong. गलत है. औरत पे हाथ उठाना कहीं इजाज़त नहीं है. और फिर सबसे बड़ी बात तो यह है कि जब रोल मॉडल हुजूर सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम है तो उन्होंने कभी ऐसा किया था, तो हम कौन हैं? Thank you so much for watching. It's a difficult topic. I hope that one day we can get Firoza and others to come into the studios and have this conversation. Jazakallah for watching. कहा सुना माफ़ कीजिएगा. दुआ में याद रखिएगा. Allah Hafiz.